today, and we might not have time later on to get that done. So where Ali is driving around on the apron, he doesn't need to call anybody on the frequency. As long as he stays within the white lines, all the vehicles on the apron, we just have a lesser license. But as soon as we go out past the green, the grass there out on the taxiways or the runways, you have to have a higher level license, which all the other firefighters and all. He has that as well, but he doesn't need to use it right now. So these aircraft are parked. They'll fly out later today. Looks like they're doing a little bit of maintenance on it. If it's heavy maintenance, they would take it to the hangar. But any work that they're doing on the engines, the oils and all that that are falling onto the ground, eventually get captured into our stormwater system. We have $160 million worth of investment in our environmental program. That includes the de-icing facility, which I'll point out in a minute, and also the the stormwater drains and ponds. So the largest stormwater facility we have is 4 tanks that hold the equivalent of 33 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Okay. So we got a few little Beechcraft here. These are for the exciting destinations of Rochester and Syracuse. They're going to be gone by the end of October. Air Canada chartered them out from Air Georgian. So Georgian is an operator of commuter flights for Air Canada along with Jazz and Sky Regional. So coming up here then, this is the largest passenger airliner in the world. This is the Airbus A380. We're going to get close to this in a second, okay? It's a giant whale that seats 520 passengers. The pilots sit in this middle deck, and there's a lower deck and an upper deck. But we're going to go on the other side of it, and we'll get a good close-up so you can get some photos. You won't get a good photo because it's too big, okay, unless you're way far away. There are 34 crew who arrived on that flight this morning, and they're all down at the Royal York now, and then the crew that are at the Royal York are getting ready to come out here to depart this afternoon. Emirates has 5 employees here in Toronto, and that plane departs quite safely with only 5 employees working. You don't believe me? So while they're here, they hire a ground handling company. And while that aircraft is on the ground in Toronto, it's 100 people involved with it. Okay? So the check-in agents don't work for Lufthansa. Not Lufthansa. They don't work for Emirates. I saw the Lufthansa sign. That's it. They don't work for Emirates. They work for a ground handling company that Emirates is. Services has about, I think it's about 300 staff that work here that are based in Toronto. They live here for 5 years and then they move back to the States. It's a cushy job for them. They get their expat pay while they're away. The old Terminal 1, the round building that used to operate from 1964 till 1996, sat out here in that black area on the apron. That's the size of the original Terminal 1. That's where it went. Now here we're over at the domestic section of the terminal, and our terminals are both designed so that we can segregate the traffic. What could happen is the passengers departing domestically, they can't mix with the people going to the US, so we have to be able to open and close the doors. But that aircraft on the corner, or maybe not that one, but around the corner, could arrive from overseas and then turn around and do a domestic flight in an hour and a half. So you have to be able to board the plane but still allow the other people to go to customs. So both terminals have 3 sectors: domestic, international, and transporter. I want to point this aircraft out because this is the newest in Air Canada's fleet. This is called the Boeing 737 MAX 8. You remember earlier I talked about winglets. Look at these. Very unique. So these just came along. Boeing realized that this is working nicely. Somebody came up with some new technology on the winglets. I'm just waiting for someone to hit them. But the engine is also very different compared to all the other engines, and gradually I think you'll start seeing more and more of these coming along. Yes, exactly, and you'll see that in a moment. So as these aircraft become more and more common, this particular one is about 6 months old. There's another one coming in just behind us there. They've got different lighting. It's LED lighting. It's brighter. It's just, you know, new technology. As they come along, they come up with new ideas. So straight ahead of us is the Boeing 787. This one is just coming in on the gate. So the ground crew for KLM are marshalling the aircraft in, so we can't go because we can't drive behind it. But once it stops, we'll pull up next to it and we'll see what we can do for a photo up there. But take a look at the shape of the wingtips on this Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Very different. The other winglets stood out, or they're pieces on the side or whatever. This is just a flared wing. And this is very, very unique, and the same as those engines we just talked about. So they're quieter. We love all this stuff, because the less noise there is from an airplane, the less everybody suffers. The employees working out here, the passengers. The A380 is apparently very quiet as a passenger on board. And then the people out in the community like it, because they don't hear them. Because right now we've had about 80,000 noise complaints so far this year with people who don't like the airplanes flying over their houses. 80,000 from 700 people. Just to put it into perspective. There's one lady who made 61 complaints last weekend. Okay? So she was, I guess her plans got canceled for the weekend, and so she was able to, you know, call us. Yes.
So you're saying the winglets cause the noise to go down?
The winglets help the aircraft become more efficient and the airflow. And so that helps reduce some of the noise.
Oh, yeah.
And then also the engine design is very quiet. So there's a lot of changes with this aircraft. Now, you saw a bunch of staff running around, so those are all the ramp staff working for Swissport, which KLM has hired. And then you're going to have all the passengers in the back are standing up already, right? You know that. They're all waiting to get off. Why are we not in customs yet? have done is made them tow it away. And it'll park where that Air Transat is parked right now. So similar to the Air Canada ones we saw earlier, we'll just have them tow them away because we need the gates for other flights. Now, given what you see right in front of us here, this is a major slab replacement project on the apron. So what it's actually done is it's shut us off. We've lost one gate right here, one big gate. So most likely KLM will be towing away. And this is our responsibility. So in the US, if an airport needs to do this work, they get a $2 million grant from the FAA, and then they go ahead and put it into their calendar and make it happen. But ours, we just have to do it. And in Canada, we're responsible for that at our airport. Every airport's responsible for their own work. We follow all the guidelines, but basically we're looking already like 3 years down the road, what slabs are going to be replaced and how this is going to be done. When we did our runway work on the northern runway last summer, a year ago, the runway was shut down for about 6 weeks. We worked around the clock. We were trying to reduce the amount of impact of the other runways to the community. But of course it cost a fortune. We had 200 security guards and 100 trucks there every day. That costs money, right? And so similar to this work here, the biggest problem is the operational impact, because losing the gate and losing the chance to flow through the traffic, so now they have to coordinate a lot more between the two towers when they're moving aircraft. It's not very busy right now, but later today it will be. So here's the Boeing 737 MAX 8 in the new colors for WestJet. This is actually quite beautiful. Just a whole different design that they have. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn around and start heading back, and then I'll talk to you about some more stuff. But any questions? Are you enjoying it? Yeah. Okay, just checking. Just checking. So it looks like they're actually getting ready to push this one because they're moving the cones out of the way. The tractor's hooked up at the front. The bridge is still attached. So as Ali's driving, he's looking for lots of different signs. If the bridge is not attached and the cones are gone and the tractor's hooked up and the lights are flashing, then we're not going anywhere. But this is a brand new plane, I think. This particular one, probably like a few months old. So we can't get out, but if we stop for a second, we'll open the doors and let you stand in the door and take a photo since it's brand new. And if you take it really quickly, you'll be able to catch the old Dreamliner in the background taxiing past. See how those bright LED beacons on the top there? There's another one underneath and the white lights on the wingtips. So we'll just open the doors, but stay on the bus, please. No, you're clear to go now. My colleagues are gone. So this is the guy on the right. He's sort of the lead right now. He knows I've got 3 staff with me, or 2 staff with me, and this is the responsibility that they have. Okay? So in this particular case, it's quite a long pushback. They have to come back, way back out of the way. So there's a stopping point up here. If he stops right there, he's going to block the roadway as well, so we sort of want to keep that in mind. But their vehicles always have to give way to the aircraft. So you're learning a lot today? Yeah. Okay, excellent. Well, I'm going to be quiet for a minute. You've heard my voice enough. Well, except for a couple more things. So behind you, off to the right-hand side, Federal Express. You can see 5 airplanes parked over there in FedEx colors. That facility has 2,000 employees. It's our office, or our building. We built it. We lease it out to them. They've done the fit up in it. So actually we can't go in it unless it's on fire. These buildings here, cargo buildings, we built all of them. And then the far one is the infield terminal, which was built as a temporary structure to handle the overflow when we shut down the old Terminal 1. And we used it this summer. We'll use it again next summer. But that requires taking a bus from this terminal over to there and then getting on the aircraft through the terminal. So we don't like busing, but if we're going to bus, we'd rather do it into that building where it means you can use escalators to get on and off the aircraft. Lots of different things involved. Up here, this aircraft, this Airbus 321 in the Rouge colors, is being towed from the hangar over to a parking position because it saves fuel if you don't have to run the engines. And in this case, they don't need to have a pilot on board. They just have a brakeman, they call it. Someone riding the brakes while there's a tractor driver as well. They're tow crew for Air Canada. Air Canada does about 100 tows a day, back and forth to gates. And because maybe this was supposed to go to Vancouver, and now it went mechanical, so they put it onto a Winnipeg flight, and then something else does to Vancouver. Different things, all sorts of criteria to make things work smoothly. The Air Canada cargo building, as I mentioned, we built that. We leased it out just like we did FedEx. And then the Sky Service and WestJet, those are FBOs. Oh, sorry, Sky Service is an FBO that I mentioned earlier, where my private jet would be. And then we have 3 of those on site. And the WestJet hangar, they lease that from us as well. Just to the left of the WestJet hangar, you can't see it, there's a little yellow building with no windows. That is the Area Control Center. So NAV Canada has 600 employees here on site. They're not all in this control tower. Most of them are in the control center. And the center is talking to all the aircraft in southern Ontario moving around. So when you fly from Windsor to Ottawa, have nothing to do with Toronto. In fact, everybody in Windsor and Ottawa want nothing to do with Toronto. They pass over it at 30,000 feet. Somebody at NAV Canada still has to talk to them, and that's in this building here. Or this Air Canada airplane that's taxiing out now, maybe it's going to Montreal. They're going to pay maybe $400 for NAV Canada's services just to move from Toronto to Montreal. So it all adds up. So you'll see that hopefully in just a moment on your right. The airplane that's taxiing in, the Delta Airlines plane, that's called a Boeing 717. It's an old airplane. Air Canada, Delta has about 100 of them, so it's worth keeping them. Eventually they'll get rid of them. They're not as efficient as other aircraft, but they work really well for the short-haul flights, small passenger counts. And when you own that many, you're going to, of course, have all the parts that you need, and the pilots are trained. Whereas if you only had 5, you might get rid of them. You might just say, oh, well, it's not worth it anymore. The Emirates, they own over 100 of those A380s. So they're not going anywhere, but again, they're 4 engines, so they're less fuel efficient than 2 engines. So here's another pushback, and in this case, the marshaller is signaling, this guy here with his hands on a cross pattern, is signaling to the tractor driver that there's something in the way, don't go, not sure what it is. It might be us, actually.